everyone. Thank you for being here. If you're returning, welcome back. If this is your first time, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video or another or more. It is later in the evening for me. It's been a really, really rough day, really hard day, which is why I'm recording this video. It is Wednesday, June 19th, 2024. Obviously I post these, well, you wouldn't know this. I post these videos immediately after I record them. I don't edit them. They are always through and through, because I don't want there to ever be a thought that I filter these or edit them to manipulate or anything like this. These are always recorded through and through. I don't re-record. I re-recorded one video once, but it was because it got interrupted, so I really didn't have a choice. But I think this video is really important, because I think it's important to see all sides of DV, IPV, abuse and surviving, and like what that means. So to go through the beginning disclaimers, I only speak for myself. I don't speak for others, other survivors, victims, their family, their friends, or anyone else. I only speak for myself, my experiences, my research, and the entire purpose is just to raise awareness for these issues. I don't monetize this. I don't get anything out of it other than using my voice that I was lucky enough to still have after the final assault by my ex-husband. So with that said, I do ask that you stay until the end. I understand that's not always feasible. Some of my videos are rather long. Of course, you can always come back and watch them over time. I have friends that do that, family that does that. Please like, share, and subscribe. Liking lets people know that you found value in this. Sharing, you know, if you think there's someone who you don't know anybody who needs it, you do. I mean, DV, IPV, and abuse are so common. They're just not talked about, and that's why I record these videos, because this kind of stuff thrives in silence, and so I'm trying to bring awareness to it. That's what I'm working towards, so that real change can happen. So please share, because if you don't need it, somebody you know, I guarantee does, or will need another video within the channel. Subscribe. It'll let you know when I post updates, or like new videos and updates, and then it will also bring it up for other people via algorithms within YouTube or other sites, so that somebody you may not know will actually see the channel and they might get some valuable information for themselves. So please like, share, subscribe. Also comments. I do my best to respond to comments. If there's something that you really want to ask, there's something that you really want to see, feedback you want to give, experiences that you've had, let's start the conversation. That's what this is all about. So this video is kind of different in that after I recorded my last video, I kind of took a step back and I was looking at all the thumbnails that YouTube like picks for me, and I don't know if this is part of like, you know, marketing, that somehow in the background it manages to catch me smiling. I have to laugh through a lot of things, just because like laughter is the best medicine, but also it just helps me kind of get through shit. It helps me laugh off how awful all of this is. And I figure, you know, I'm gonna go through it anyway, so I might as well laugh about it to some extent. But it always catches me smiling. Like every thumbnail is like it's like the greatest thing ever what I'm talking about, and it's not. I mean, I guess it's not a terrible thing that it manages to catch me smiling, but it definitely does. And then that's my thumbnail. But I thought about it and I was like, man, you know, people see these videos and they're like, oh, yay, like, she's smiling. But it's not a happy experience. Like, I'm very grateful for surviving. I'm so glad that I did. I'm so glad that I'm gone. I'm so glad that I was able to protect my children, and I have the opportunity to start my life over. And help my children have a life that they otherwise wouldn't have and had and have a future and all of that. My friends and family who have been affected, you know, they're still coping with all of this. The ripple is so vast and so real. But it's not easy, and there are days, like many days like today, that are just brutal, and they don't necessarily get better, they just kind of change form over time. But so I'm at just over 22 months out. And one of the things that is not talked about enough is just not only how just totally fucked this system is in supporting and protecting abusers, but enabling the abuse and allowing it to continue through the legal system. And it's really upsetting. It's really upsetting. And when I get upset, what I like to do, this is just what works for me, what I like to do is kind of look at the facts and ensure that what I'm experiencing, it's not that it's real. I know it's real because it's my experience, right? Like, it's real to me. And I know it's, and I've experienced it. Like, I've been going through it, and I've heard firsthand from advocates and from others who have been through it, other survivors or their family and friends, that the system and like going through the legal process is so re-traumatizing and so enabling to abusers to continue their abuse. And it's one of those things that I've said to others, like, one of the hardest things about surviving, that I couldn't have necessarily foreseen, even if I had thought about it, which I hadn't, is, you know, in my situation, I had one abuser in a sense in this relationship, right? Like, I had this one individual who was enacting all of these different forms of abuse, manipulation, just everything, all forms of abuse: physical, psychological, mental, sexual, financial, weaponization of family, weaponization of friends, weaponization of my children, weaponization of my pets. All forms of abuse was coming from one person, right? And then upon survival, which I will stop right now and say is absolutely worth it, like, no matter what I say, like, I'm bringing the truth to light, not necessarily just for like victims and survivors, those who are trying to get out, those who are out, those who have been out, but for allies, advocates, people who give a shit, you know, people in the legal system, people in law enforcement, people in research, people who just care. I don't care who hears it. It doesn't matter to me. If something changes based on what I've said and the truth of my experience, then great. That's the whole goal, is to help, right? But the truth, like, seriously sucks. The truth seriously. It's been a really hard day. So, just the enablement of abusers in, through the system, you go from having potentially one to having many in a weird way, because, in my situation, my abuser is still my abuser, and now he's got his family, his father and stepmother financially supporting this abuse, and he's abusing the community and selling them lies to continue stealing from the community and the environment to live this dream, and calls himself a self-made blah blah blah. And he's got, these attorneys that are just, I don't know, man. Like, I could never have the facts and support someone like that. That's just not for me. I could never do it. But then you got the attorneys. Then you've got this system that's completely broken. Then you've got people who maybe just don't believe you as a survivor, like, or they themselves are abusers that are supporting, who are being supported in their abuse through the system under guises of being for good and doing the right thing. It's, the whole thing is disgusting, right? So you go from having like this one individual who's abusing you. When I say you, it's the royal you. It's my experience, but saying like this is possible for anyone. Anyone can have this experience, but going through this process, you go from one to many abusers, and you think that there's going to be justice served, that you're going to get a fucking break, and you just don't. So what I like to do, going back to that, is I like to try to understand like the facts, like the research, peer-reviewed research that's out there, that shows me that I am not crazy, like that I can stop gaslighting myself, and that this is a real thing worthy of serious research, and documenting this research and having it peer-reviewed. So one of the articles I found is called Intimate Partner Violence Survivors Perspectives on Coping with Family Court Processes. This is a research article. Looks like it was published on October 9th of 2023 in a book called Violence Against Women. Let's see here. I'm looking at pages 101 to 125, and I'm looking at it on PubMed Central, where you can get peer-reviewed articles. This isn't just people, random people's opinions. This is literally research that has been done. So basically, the abstract, it talks about IPV-exposed mothers and their report of distress during family court proceedings. And the fact that there's really no known research examining like what helps them cope, right? So you can do research and you can find things like this of like what research has shown helps people cope. How people cope in their experiences is different for everybody, but so it goes through, like, if I'll just read this. So intimate partner violence affects 1 in 4 women in the United States and has significant psychological, physical, social, and economic consequences for survivors. All of those for me. All of them. I have been just raked through it in every way, shape, and form. Leaving abusive relationships heightens survivors' risk of violence, homelessness, and poverty, and thus increases their vulnerability as they seek protection and safety. For survivors who are mothers, separating from an abusive partner can be particularly challenging, as it often involves the need to navigate child custody and parenting arrangements through the family and or civil court systems with abusive ex-partners. IPV-exposed mothers have reported experiencing significant distress during post-separation legal processes, as they must both adapt to a legal system that is not trauma-informed, facts, not trauma-informed, and face the person who abused them in court. Another fact. So in my situation, this individual literally almost murdered me in front of my son when he was 5 years old. And I literally in the last 22 months have had to fight for justice fight to clear my name on the criminal side, fight for justice on the criminal side for him, which never came. Never. He has never been held accountable for a single thing. While simultaneously restarting our lives from clothes and plastic bags, working full time with multiple very severe injuries, including a severe concussion that I couldn't tell anybody about at work, because it would have potentially I thought it would have potentially impacted my career standing, and I needed my job to pay for my children, which I was paying for, everything for them at 100%, while restarting our lives, while trying to find housing, while moving to another state because I had to flee across state lines to get us to safety, while also going through the civil process or the family court process of going through a divorce, of trying to get them to understand what kind of individual this person is and why he was not only a danger to me but also to the our child in common, who he also abused, and my other child who he also abused. And so I'm going through the criminal side, I'm going through the legal the family court side, the civil side. I'm doing this simultaneously. I'm restarting my life. I'm trying to heal from my injuries. I can't take breaks from work because I have to work to pay my bills. And mind you, during this entire time, I'm having to pay all of my attorneys. I'm having to pay all of my own medical expenses. I'm having to pay all of my own expenses to restart our life, to buy all new furniture, all new clothes, all new everything. I had to find places that would allow me to keep my pets because those were critical to our happiness and our healing. We weren't going to get rid of our pets. We love them. And they bring us immense joy. And at this same time, I was still paying for all of his living expenses. So day to day, I was paying for everything in the new state that I had just moved to. And then for 9 months during the divorce proceedings, I was paying for all of that and all of my legal expenses and all of the court fees and all of that, on top of literally paying for his entire existence, the mortgage, the vehicle payments, all of the insurance, literally everything. The only thing that he would have had to pay for was his own groceries, his own phone bill, which he did not take responsibility for his phone, so I ended up paying for that. So he just had to pay his phone bill monthly for use. So his own groceries, his own phone bill, and electricity. That's it. In the location where this was, that would have cost maybe max like $300 a month. And then come to find out, he was living off of the state. So he wasn't even paying anything. And I'm literally paying his entire existence for 9 months on top of everything else that I'm paying for, on top of everything else that I'm doing, right? And I'm going through this and I'm paying for therapy for all of us because we all need it. And regular living expenses, groceries, our utilities, kids get sick, I get sick, things happen, pets get sick, all these normal living expenses, normal life expenses on top of everything else, right? And the legal system allows this to continue because throughout it all, we're talking, and I've mentioned this before, but we're talking multiple bond violations of leaving the state he was in against his bond and being able to proving that and nothing happening, repeatedly violating the protection orders and proving it, reporting it to the police and nothing happening. Things like illegal things that were going on that continued to go on, reporting that, nothing happening. Only, what was it? Only, well, shoot, 1 month after everything happened, I was able to appear virtual for the first hearing, and then only 3 months after everything happened, I had to actually appear in court, and I had to face off against my abuser and listen to him lie. Now, here's the thing. If I am saying something and I'm like, I don't know if that's 100%, I either won't say it or I'll be like, I don't know that this is fully accurate because it doesn't feel like it's fully accurate. If I say this happened, I have evidence. This is not a hearsay situation. I have evidence. If I say this is true, this is false, with 100% certainty, I can prove it. I have that evidence, right? So I'm in this hearing 3 months after it was like barely 3 months after I had fled the state I was in and then had to go back to that state to go to this hearing in person and face off against my abuser in a court and hear him lie and 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 not have anything like I can do to be like, you're lying and you know it and I can prove it. And then I go up and I'm being cross-examined or whatever by his attorney, and I'm having to defend myself, protect my children, especially the child in common, make sense of what is going on. And like, you only get one shot to do this. If you want to talk about like re-traumatization, that would be traumatizing for anyone who wasn't abused. Like, having to go into that situation and testify like that is in itself traumatizing. I had the woman who saved my life in that courtroom, my best friend of 20 years in that courtroom, a friend of mine who I was isolated from in that courtroom, my attorney in that courtroom, another woman. There were like 7 women there that I was very close with from different walks of life, and they were crying. They were crying. And I was forced to sit there and just contain it and not say certain things and say these other things, because if you say the wrong thing, then that attorney can use that against you. And here's what I found the most dumbfounding. This is literally only 3 months, and this I thought was an isolated thing, but this is how it is. There is like no holds bar on what they can say about you and what they can try to manipulate and use against you. And it is gross. It literally even now makes my skin crawl. But there were things that I've been very open and in other videos, and I will in this one, in the fact that I had a suicide attempt in September of 2021. Now, I was very open about this. There are other videos where I talk about like what happened, but I was basically in this state of complete and utter distress, and my abuser was literally shoving pills in my mouth and telling me to just fucking kill myself already, right? And then I think freaked out when I collapsed, and then forced me to purge, and then told everyone that he saved my life. But then every time there was any kind of argument or it benefited him in any way, he would thereafter he would bring up how he made a mistake, he should have just let me die, and would then start taunting me and telling me to kill myself again. So this event was literally allowed to be used against me in court. Now, mind you, this individual had attempted suicide, had beaten me the night he attempted suicide, checked himself into a mental health hospital, and was there for a few days. This I don't have proof of. I don't have evidence because he made me shred the records. But there was a copy of his record sent to me. I very clearly remember, don't know if I'll ever be able to prove this one straight up, but I very clearly remember seeing on his intake form that he was, and these were released to me. These were not illegally obtained or anything by me. They were sent to me to whatever, support him or something. I don't know. And I don't know exactly what led to it being released to me necessarily. I can't quite remember, but I help with a lot of medical stuff with my friends and family, so perhaps that's what happened. I don't recall. But had checked that he was both suicidal and homicidal at the point of checking it, and he had literally threatened to drown me and punched me in the face multiple times the night before. So this is the individual whose attorney is now basically trying to paint me to be this alcoholic, mentally, ill, dangerous mother who had a high likelihood of hurting my children or neglecting my children, and who had tried to commit suicide a year prior. This is so wrong. This is so wrong, but this is allowed. And I thought in my mind, I was like, this is an isolated event. Like, I can't even believe they're letting this happen. Now, mind you, this same individual in that first hearing I said, where I appeared via WebEx or whatever, like video conferencing from another state, literally yelled at a female magistrate in the middle of the hearing, and nothing happened. This guy, like I said, bond violations, protection order violations. I don't know which court orders he actually followed, like if any at this point in totality. Nothing has ever happened. He's never been held accountable for anything. He's never been no warrants have ever been issued. He has not spent any more time in jail. He has not been charged with anything. And the one thing he was charged with was dismissed, and his record was sealed. So the community will never know what he did. So this, though, was not an isolated event. This continued. This enablement continued because he has the financial support of a rich dad who just, I don't know, pays for it. I don't know. I think it's disgusting. I love my children immensely. But if one of my children abused another human being and I even caught wind of it, I would make damn sure that it was false, and I wouldn't be supporting anyone knowing. And that's the thing. People would say, oh, well, maybe they just don't know, or maybe he's lying to them. Except they do know, because I told them. So they do know. They might not know the full extent, because I will not talk to these individuals. I absolutely refuse to talk to these individuals. I will never talk to them again in my life. But they know enough that there is something wrong, not only with my situation, but with this individual's criminal history, which they have also supported. And my guess is to keep it on the down low so that they can continue to live their blissful, rich life and their reputation doesn't get damaged. I don't know. I don't care the reason. It's disgusting. So this was not an isolated event. This was allowed to continue, motion after motion after motion. What's called a parental responsibilities evaluation was done. I had to pay for that. I got 50% back in the closing or whatever, but I literally, in the final divorce decree, but I literally paid for this individual's entire existence for 9 months, which was well beyond that 50%. And then I had to pay 50, I had to basically split everything 50-50. And even though I literally proved that I had paid for everything, all assets had been paid for 100% by me, and I still had to give up half of it, including half of my retirement to this individual, just because of the calculations of divorce proceedings in this state. So it continued. Then it continued thereafter, because this individual couldn't follow the court orders that would enable him to have some sort of interaction with the child in common, which in itself is bullshit. He's literally founded in 2 different states for child abuse and neglect, and creating an injurious environment for a child. He has a prior DV guilty conviction with me as the victim. Before this, he's literally at this time being charged with domestic violence. He has domestic violence criminal charges going on, or charge going on, and this is allowed to continue. My son began self-harming as a result of the reunification therapist forcing him to continue through this process of interacting, or getting to the point of interacting with this individual, and was literally witnessed by his therapist self-harming. The reunification therapist was informed of this very directly and continued to force him anyway. She ended up resigning, which is a totally separate issue, because I kept pushing, like, this is not okay, 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 email after email after email after email after email, her using her position to abuse me and basically say, well, how do I know you're not going to try to kill yourself again? So, like, let's not pay attention to the fact that he has all of this history that has been proven by government agencies. I have literally never withheld any information whatsoever. I have been very forthcoming with everything. But let's focus on this one event and just, like, forget everything else, right? So I'm having to deal with this on top of, again, healing from my injuries, restarting my life, trying to work full time, dealing with other basic life things that go on, dealing with trying to help 2 very traumatized children heal while they're continuing to be re-traumatized, because they know that they're not free. They know that especially this little boy, knows that he's going to be continued to be forced through this system, no matter how hard I try to shield him from it. Children are not stupid. Like, I love how people are like, oh, well, you must be telling them everything. No, I'm actually not, but they're not dumb and they're with me all the time. And there's only so much I can do to block conversations or stop things from popping up on my computer. And at the end of the day, children are intuitive. Children are not stupid creatures. So the fact that the system treats them as such is infuriating to me. The fact that children do not have a voice in what happens in their lives. Now, I can understand if like a kid's like, I want to go to a Disneyland park because I don't want any rules or blah, 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 blah. Yeah, like, no, you need rules. You need structure. You need routine. You need a solid home. You need a solid relationship with your parents, as long as it's safe, as long as it's healthy, as long as it's going to help that child grow and develop and become the best form of themselves. But the problem is the system is black and white. It doesn't matter. Like, if there is anything other than like perfect harmony, or like one of the parents dies or something like that, like in DBIPV especially, the other parent, the parent that is trying to do the right thing for their child, gets worked through the system. Worked. And that parent inevitably pays for everything, because they're going to do whatever they need to do to get whatever data they need to get to prove that this individual, this other individual, this abusive individual is a total piece of shit that is going to harm their child, their children, them, right? And it's allowed. It's allowed. It just continues, because no matter what that person has done, really, you still have to go through the same 17 steps or however many it is. Right? So it doesn't matter. It could be a completely amicable situation. And like that illogic, really. But that structure, that parenting structure, is still gonna try to be forced upon someone who literally tried to murder the other parent and has been proven to abuse and neglect the children that are being most affected by this, right? So this has continued now for almost 2 years. I actually have yet another hearing in 2 months to continue this fucking charade, right? Because all of the evidence I've provided, all the evidence that has been provided by government agencies, for some reason is not enough in this system. And this is so painful, because it is so completely and utterly re-traumatizing, and people are like, oh, just move on, like, oh, heal, oh, da da da. Do you know how hard it is to heal when you're still being re-traumatized and you're still experiencing it? It's still abuse. It's just in a different form. And instead of being like abused by one, you're being abused by many, and you have no idea where it's going to come from, which direction it's going to come from next. And why I'm recording this video today and why it hit me so hard today is because today was a really, really hard day for me medically, and I'll give a little background. So I have two great aunts that died of breast cancer. I found this out when my genetic father died. I found this out from an aunt that I didn't know I had, and she let me know all of our family's medical history so that I would be able to have that information should I need it. So I know that I had two great aunts that died of breast cancer. My grandfather on my mother's side died of cancer. My mother has had precancerous things. So cancer is pretty common in my family, and cancer is pretty just common, which is terrible. But obviously genetic predisposition is going to increase my chances of different types of cancers. And last June of 2023, I found a lump in my right breast armpit area during a self-exam. And it was one of those things where I was like, okay, I'm just not going to take any chances. It could be nothing, right? It could be an inflamed lymph node. It could be nothing. So I went, I got a mammogram, an ultrasound, and last summer, this is literally like 1 month after the divorce was, or 2 months after the divorce was finalized. This is during reunification efforts. I don't even know, like basically during systematic abuse of my son and me and further still, my family, who were freaking out at what was happening. So I'm having to like field their concerns, understand what the hell is going on, and try to protect my son at the same time, and take care of my children who are terrified. But I go to the diagnostic mammogram and the diagnostic ultrasound, and they say, literally, the woman is crying. And she goes, "Great news, there's nothing there. It's just the way that your breast tissue has formed." And I was like, wow, that is amazing, right? Like, that's the best news. And so, like, I just move on. I'm like, wonderful. Like, I don't have time to think about anything more. Like, that's great. It's not there. I'm moving on, right? And I'll just continue my exams like I always have since I was 14 years old. So about a month and a half ago, I'm doing my routine self-exam. If you do not know how to do a routine self-exam, even if you are a male, please go to your doctor and find out. Males get breast cancer too. You can catch it. I have known people who have caught it, who have successfully treated it and are still alive today. So please do your exams and make sure that you're taking care of yourself to the best of your ability. It doesn't take a long time to figure that out. You can literally look up YouTube videos on it. Like, do something, please. But I'm doing my routine exam, self-exam, about a month and a half ago, and I feel that the lump that I felt last year is a little bit larger, but I'm like, okay, well, they said it was okay. And as I continue to do my exam, I find another one in the same breast, and this one's different. And I really freaked out because I was like, okay, this one's different. This one is uncomfortable, and it's very new. It wasn't there last month. So I immediately make an appointment with my gynecologist. I had gotten a new gynecologist. Make an appointment. I go and see her, and upon her examination, she not only feels the one from last year that's gotten larger and the one that I just found, but then she finds another one in my left breast that I myself could not feel. And so she refers me to get another diagnostic mammogram and another diagnostic ultrasound, which I had today. Now, when I woke up this morning, I was lucky because I got a cancellation, so that's how I was able to get in so quick, because otherwise it's like, it can be like a 3-month wait depending on where you live and where you go. So I go today, and they find things, nodules in my breasts that were not there last year, right? Now, I don't know what they are, and neither do they right now. But the one thing that I will say from my experience that I cannot control necessarily, and I don't really try, is where my mind goes as a result of all of this. And this is what got me to record this video. I don't know if I have breast cancer. I don't. I certainly hope I don't. I really don't want that. Nobody wants that. But here's where it gets really fucked up as part of this process. Nobody would want that I can think of. I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I cannot imagine anybody sitting there like, I would love breast cancer. Yeah, that sounds like a great thing. What I will say is the thought process of why I don't want breast cancer is not because it's a very potentially fatal disease that is so horrific in nature. I kid you not, my first thought was, I can't get cancer right now. Like, not now, you know, like this can't happen right now. It was so quick. It was almost like, hey, you want to go get dinner on Friday night? And I'm like, not right now. I got plans. Like, I got plans. I gotta go do some fun shit somewhere else. Like, I'm sorry, we'll have to get dinner another night. Like, that's literally how fast I thought about, ooh, I can't get cancer right now. As if it's somehow my choice, right? Or it's somehow within my fucking control, like whether or not I get cancer. But that was my first thought. And here's why. It wasn't because I could die and that would be awful enough in itself. It was because I literally pictured myself instantaneously sitting in a courtroom, testifying while going through treatment and having a scarf on my head, and didn't care about losing my hair. I've shaved my head before, like nothing like that. But how would they use this against me? They'd probably use it against me. They'd probably put me on the stand and they would be like, oh, she has cancer. She literally can't obviously take care of her children because she has cancer. Like, how is she supposed to take care of her kids when she's going through chemo or radiation? Now, I don't know that this is necessarily true. I don't know that this would happen. But I can tell you, I absolutely believe that it's a possibility after everything that I have experienced. Everything I have experienced in courtrooms, how much I have been abused through the legal system, how much that has been enabled, supported by the legal system for him to continue to abuse me in more ways than none, to financially destroy me, to continue to use me as his personal piggy bank while I work my freaking ass off to take care of my children and myself. I am still healing from injuries. I probably will for a while from him and his final beating. And literally, as I'm sitting here realizing that in 1 year I have gone through it from your breasts are perfectly fine to you have 3 nodules and we don't know what they are, my first thought is, I can't have cancer right now because they will absolutely use that against me in court. It's the same of if I were having thoughts of harming myself, which I don't, but if I were, I can't say that to anyone. Because if they subpoena my records or if they ask a mental health professional that I am seeing, release of information, what's going on, they'll use it against me. At one point I was being forced to do drug and alcohol screening. He was not doing his the way he was supposed to. He is literally the substance abuser and was not doing his screenings, and nothing ever happened. I did every single one, never had a blip, never had anything because I don't use any of those. But I got sick with an upper respiratory infection and having lupus. It was really, really bad. And I literally did not take Sudafed because I was so afraid that it would show up as a false positive on my exam. I have unconfirmed Crohn's, but it's definitely there. I'm double ASCA positive, which is 100% indicative of Crohn's, but it's just in a place where they probably can't get to it. So one of my main ways of treating flare-ups is to have a kombucha. I would not drink kombucha because it has small traces of alcohol in it because it's a fermented beverage, and I was terrified that it would show a false positive. So I literally did not treat myself for things, for illnesses that I have because I was so afraid of false positives, and he literally just wasn't testing while violating probation orders, while violating court orders, and nothing happened. So when I'm going through all of this, and this is repetitive, like this just keeps happening over and over and over and over, no accountability, me being held to a completely different standard, me being literally abused by him, his attorneys, the DA's office, not getting support from law enforcement or my local district attorney's office because the system's too overwhelmed and there's no centralized system to understand everything that's going on. So everything is seen as individual instead of them seeing holistically who this individual is and everything that he's doing. So to the point where it is possible. I talked to another physician today. I have to go get another diagnostic ultrasound. I'm likely going to have to get a biopsy. I might have to go talk to a breast surgeon about getting, a lumpectomy. If I'm positive for the BRCA gene, getting a prophylactic double mastectomy, all of these things, right? But the only thing I could think of is, I can't have cancer right now because I got to go to court. I can't have cancer right now because I have to continue to protect my children through a system that just wants to help destroy them. I can't have cancer right now because I don't know how they're going to use it against me to paint me to be a horrible mother when I have done nothing but protect my children and take care of my children from the moment that they were born. and I have a wonderful relationship with them. They would be the first to tell you that I do everything to make sure that they are taken care of. And I'm not a Disneyland parent. There is structure in my house. There is routine. There are consequences for actions, like inappropriate actions. There's positive reinforcement for doing great things. They are great students. They are kind. They are loving. They are respectful. They are giving. So it's not like, oh, they just get to hang out and do whatever the hell they want. No, that's not how this works. We have a very great relationship because I work my butt off to make sure that happens and they do the same. So the fact that it's not, oh, I can't have cancer because what if I don't beat it? My children won't have their mother. It's, oh, I can't have cancer right now because I have to be here to continue to protect them, and I don't have time for this, and this is going to be used against me. That's what the system does on the back end by enabling this abuse to continue for DV-IPV survivors. And there are studies on this. I asked my best friend, one of my best friends, I said, hey, can you help me do some research? She's a behavioral research scientist. I said, hey, can you give me some research on DV-IPV survivors and their experiences through the legal system? And she literally was just like, here you go, 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 to the point where I was like, okay, like, I'm good. Yeah, I got it. Thank you. It's out there. The research is out there, but we're not talking about it. Surviving is wonderful, but it is so hard to do because there's no freedom in it. You're still in this system, and when we talk about like why victims don't become survivors, this is, in my opinion, this is why. And then you get asked that question, well, why didn't you leave? I just wanted to be very clear how lucky I am to have, to be in the position in life that I'm in. I have worked incredibly hard to build my career. I have wonderful managers, leaders, colleagues where I work that support me. Not many know what's going on, mostly because it's not value add to my job and my business. But I do have people who know, and they're there for me, and they know what's going on, and they support me. So I'm very lucky to have an incredibly supportive job that allows me to deal with all of this bullshit all the time. And I do make good money. Granted, this is incredible. I make good money in the grand scheme of things because, like I said, I have built my career over 15 years. I think that's right. 14 years. I have built my career over 14 years, and I have worked incredibly hard to get to where I am, despite it all, and because of it all, really, because it just kept driving me to get the hell out of there. But I am still in incredible debt from having to deal with all of this. And so it's like, why do victims not become survivors? Well, because in my experience alone, I haven't been believed. I haven't gotten any justice in a courtroom. I was forced to pay for all of my abuser's expenses for 9 months, and now I'm forced to pay him abuser support, an exorbitant amount of abuser support, for almost 3 years. I had to restart our lives from trash bags. I had to find housing after fleeing to another state and having literally nothing. I have to pay all of regular life's expenses. The list goes on, and I can't heal because I'm being re-traumatized repeatedly. I'm trying to help my children who can't heal because they're being re-traumatized repeatedly. And it goes on and on and on. And it's been like this for 2 years. And when you've already been in this existence where you are beaten in every form, getting out and then continuing to do it in other ways, while then trying to grieve your past, make sense of your present, figure out how to plan for the future, because what the hell does that even look like? I would recommend, if you are about to get out, you've gotten out, whatever, don't try to plan for the future. Just focus on right now and doing what you need to do to get to the next step in the legal system until it's fixed, because you'll drive yourself crazy trying to think about the future. It's too hard, and there are too many moving parts. You can't plan for anything in the legal system, because you can be planning for a court date and then somebody wants to go on vacation and they just move your court date, and they'll move it out, they'll move it up. My court date just got moved up 2 months, then it got moved another month, then it got moved back. So it's like there's no planning, so just don't even try. But victims don't become survivors because they survived the physical part, but thanks to the system we have, they continue, we continue, I continue, my children continue, my friends continue, my family continue. We all continue to experience the abuse through the system that continues to support our abuser. And I do say our abuser because this same individual not only abused me and both of my children, but actually assaulted both of my parents in their own home, and has also tried to manipulate and leverage my friends of many, 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 many years to try to make it look like he's the good guy. So he has victimized so many others. He's victimized the community because he touts himself this wonderful human being because they don't know any better. So this is allowed to continue. And this is why victims don't become survivors, because I have literally had friends of mine, family of mine say, I don't get out of my abusive situation because there's no way I would make it through what you've made it through. And to an extent, I don't disagree, because financially alone, let alone all of the abuse that is allowed through examination and cross-examination by attorneys, I don't know. I really don't know how survivors, especially survivors with other dependents, whatever that looks like, pets, kids, maybe elderly dependents, I don't know how they make it if they don't have really steady income, they don't have family that helps them. I don't know how they do it. I really don't. And that shit really, really, really bothers me, because I'm looking at my situation and I'm like, I don't even know how I'm making it through at this point. And I'm a pretty damn sturdy, steadfast person. I push hard. I work hard. I always have. I am one of the hardest working people you will ever meet. I am one of the most understanding, patient, kind, loving, empathetic people you will ever meet. And there are times where I'm like, fuck it. Like, I don't even know what to do anymore. So how do people who get out, who don't have those resources, make it? And why are we not having the conversation on how to help others get out? How can we support them more? How are we not pushing to make that statement in that article of not trauma-informed legal systems? How are we not pushing to make sure that the individuals within that system are trauma-informed and are held to that? How? And why? Why are we not doing it? Why are we not having these conversations? Well, I will tell you, I don't know the answer to that question, but I will never, ever, ever be one that does not use my voice to be like, how? Why? What are you doing to change it? You can't do that. Why are you treating this person this way? Have you thought about what their experience is during this? Because they don't. To them, it's dollars, cents, power, and status, and that's how this works. So I'm getting high on my soapbox right now because I'm like, it really, really hit me hard and hurt me deeply that as my children were going to bed tonight and I'm not telling them what's going on with me because they cannot go through one more thing, and it's not a thing until it's a thing. So I sit there and I hold this in, and I tell those who I know can at least maintain stability through this with me and are there for me, but sitting there thinking, this person literally almost murdered me. I have financially supported this person for years, and I continue to do so for years after almost murdering me. He is literally living his dreams off of my slave labor, off of illegal uses of resources, off of lying to the community, manipulating the community, continuing to abuse me through the legal system because somebody else pays his bills. I'm assuming his dad, because that's what I've seen. I don't know if his dad finally wised up. I don't really give a shit at this point. I don't think he has, because literally, like, I keep seeing it in the documents. But this individual who has done all of these horrible things that have been proven repeatedly to so many, not just me, but to so many, he's out here living his dream, doing whatever he wants to do off of my historical and current slave labor. Literal enslavement. Look up the definition of slavery. That is what he is. I'm his slave. Still. But then there's me over here having to work so much just to pay the bills, just to keep my head above water, just to feed my children, to maintain our lives, while living in a place that is quite literally falling apart because it's all I can afford, while wondering how I'm going to continue staying financially afloat, how I'm going to continue to gather all of the evidence I have to continue to gather to once again drive to another state, leave my children, take time off of work to go into a courtroom to face my abuser yet again, to continue to try to protect my child, who literally starts self-harming at just the thought of having to speak to this individual or even think about this individual. And on the day that I find out I might actually have breast cancer, the only thing I can think of is, I'm sorry, cancer, not today. Next year, maybe the year after, if this finally resolves. But I'm sorry, cancer, this it can't be today. It can't be right now, because I gotta go to court. So I wanted to record this to show the reality of what survivors go through in this really fucking broken system. And it's painful, because I don't want to discourage current victims or survivors into going back or into staying, because it's worth it to leave. And I'm doing this for you, for all of us, to raise the awareness. But if you're watching this and you have any ability to do anything at all, share this with a fucking lawmaker or something. But if we don't start doing something about this, victims won't become survivors, because this existence is unfucking reasonable. It's not okay. I should hear, hey, you might have cancer, and immediately think, okay, let's beat this shit right now. Let's go. Let's do this. But instead, again, all I think is, I don't have time for cancer right now. I'm gonna have to go on ahead and take a rain check on that one. So do something. If you have any capacity at all to at least like, share, subscribe, send this to a lawmaker, send this to a celebrity who gives a shit. I don't care what you do, but please do something so that this constant, continuous abuse stops. Please. Don't do it for me. Do it for others, because I'm gonna make it through. I don't have a choice. But there are others who need our help. And so, please do what you can, and let's save some lives together. Have a good one.